Добрий день.
Hello. Thank you for joining us. This is Media Center Ukraine at Ukrinform. It's the 100th day since the beginning of the full-scale invasion of Russia in our land. And right now, let us hear from Oleksandr Motuzyanyk, the Speaker of the Ministry of Defense. Dear friends, hello everyone. This is the information about the military aggression of the Russian Federation as of today, the 3rd of June, 9 a.m. It is the 100th day of the full-scale war against our state. The enemy is attempting to get to the administrative borders of Luhansk and Donetsk regions to establish the land corridor with the occupied Crimean Peninsula and also to block the sea communications of Ukraine in the northwestern part of the Black Sea. With support of aviation, the enemy is taking assault actions along the contact line. The situation is tense, but is generally under control of Ukraine's defense forces. there are continued missile attacks on Ukraine's territory with the purpose to destroy civilian and military infrastructure. The enemy is trying to limit our military potential. From the waters of the Black Sea, the small warship has launched at least 6 caliber missiles. Also, the long-distance bombarders Tu-22 M3 have launched at least 10 X-22 missiles on the territories of Kiev, Lviv, and Mykolaiv regions. The command of the Russian Federation is trying to develop sabotage activity in our territories. People are hired to take part in such groups. The preference is given to those originating in Donetsk and Lugansk regions, those who can speak the Ukrainian language. The enemy is using the terror tactics in the occupied territories. In the occupied Kherson, the occupiers robbed the epicenter stores, and the property was exported to the territory of the occupied Crimean Peninsula. A few details about the operational situation. In the Kharkiv axis, Ukraine's military are fighting against the 6th Army of the Western Military District, the coastal forces, and the mobilization reserve of the 1st Army Corps. These enemy troops are trying to hold the lines and to prevent our advance to the state border. In order to limit our military potential, the enemy has used artillery attacks along the contact lines and also in the depths of our troops, especially near the communities of Старий Салтів, Kutuzivka, Ruski Tishki, Cherkassky Tishki, Tsirkuni, Ruska Lozova Slatine, and the Dementievka village. In the Slovyansk axis, Ukrainian defenders successfully counteract the assaults of the enemy in Dolina and Bohorodishne, 17 kilometers to the northwest of Slovyansk. In Donetsk, the Ukrainian forces are holding the advance of a strong grouping of the 2nd Army Corps, the 8th and 58th and 5th Army, and the 90th Tank Division. The enemy is attempting to encircle our troops near Severodonetsk and Lysychansk. At the Severodonetsk axis, the Ukrainian troops have successfully disabled the enemy from seizing the villages of Metyolkina and Belogorivka. The enemy has withdrawn from there. Right now, the battles are happening in the central part of the Severodonetsk city. The combat operations are still on. In the Bakhmut axis, our military are working against the enemy who is trying to push the Ukrainian forces out of the current positions. Again, the aggressor is using artillery attacks along the whole line and is trying to get positions in the village of Kamyshovacha. Near Avdiivka, the Ukrainian troops have successfully fought back the attack of the Russians near Krasnohorivka and pushed them to their previous positions. Near Kurakhova, Novopavlivsky, and Zaporizhia, the enemy is using the army and assault aviation in order to limit the military capacity of our troops. In the southern Buk axis, the enemy is concentrating efforts on holding its previous positions and also became active in the fire attacks along the whole line of the contact. Smerch systems were used in the directions of Mykolaiv and near Charkiv. In Volyn and Polissa, the situation is still the same as before. Some units of the Belarusian army, up to 7 battalions, continue to strengthen the border with Ukraine in Brest and Homel regions of Belarus. In Siversky axis, there are no active combat operations, but the enemy is is keeping its troops in Bryansk and Kursk regions. This way, the Russians are trying to prevent the use of our troops in other regions of combat operations. Also, the enemy is collecting intelligence and is trying to destroy the air defense systems of our troops. For the fire attacks in Krasnopilya and Mikhalchina in Sumy, Mikhalchina Sloboda in Sumy and Chernihiv regions, the enemy was using the artillery, assault, aviation, and mortars. In the Black and Azov Sea operational zone, the Russians are collecting intelligence and are providing fire support to their own occupational troops. And also they continue to block civilian traffic in the northern part of the Black Sea. Also, there is readiness for the use of missiles in the waters of the Black Sea. There are 2 warships with the caliber missiles, up to 16 missiles in total. Meanwhile, the armed forces of Ukraine continue the defense operation and are destroying the enemy in the majority of the operations area. Over the last day, 5 enemy attacks were successfully fended off, 5 enemy tanks, 3 artillery systems, 3 armored vehicles were destroyed, 3 Orlan drones, and also in other areas the occupiers sustained serious losses as well. Here on the screen you can see the total losses of the Russian army since the 24th of February. That's it from me. Thank you for your attention. Oleksandr, yesterday we saw in open sources information about explosions in Berdansk. Can you comment on this? I cannot comment on this because I do not have operations information on this. You should understand that if the Ministry of Defense or the General Staff of the Army is not sharing this information, we have to wait. For now, I do not have this information. Other questions, dear colleagues? I'm Vitaly from Ukrinform. A couple of days ago, there was some advance of our troops in Kherson region. Some communities were liberated. Is this success being exploited, or the situation is unchangeable? Ukrainian army is trying to follow the standards of the NATO countries, and in those countries the information about the successful advance is provided 2 or 3 days later. There are some accomplishments in that area, but let us wait until this information becomes openly available. Thank you. Other questions? Thank you, Oleksandr. Thank you, everyone. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the Ukrainian defenders. Please believe in the Ukrainian armed forces. Thank you. Thank you for staying with us. This was Oleksandr Motuzyanyk, the Speaker of the Ministry of Defense.